In the 1900s, people had such futuristic thoughts that they said, new inventions? We have made cars. If we are doing this now, who knows what we will do in the 2000s? Their ideas were as great as they were unsuccessful, but there were times when they correctly predicted how the future would shape up. Many people of that time imagined the future to be much better, more comfortable, and technological in their drawings or films. They were dreaming about what kind of technology there would be in the future. The main thing they were curious about was what the world would be like in the 2000s, and they started making predictions about it. You will laugh quite a bit at some of the predictions and be quite surprised at others. Here are the predictions about the future world made by people more than 10, even 100 years ago. An old date, the 1900s? So, 122 years ago, a chocolate factory in America, named Hildebrand's, released a series of souvenir postcards called Humanity in the 2000 It's Out. Here's one of those postcards. A picture showing that people would have their own wearable metal wings in the 2000s. The designer thought that people would have different personal flight equipment, just like different car models. Another picture imagines Zeppelin-style air vehicles that might be specific to individuals or even families. If you've noticed, different models are floating in the air again. What I'm going to show now is quite interesting and creative. Portable houses, also known as walking houses. An idea where two steam-powered houses built on a rail system can travel to different cities. If your house is in Kütahya, you can relocate it to Istanbul, which will increase its value by 5 times. I guess this part needs to be solved somehow. This was one of my favorite predictions about the future. Again, this is quite expensive, but one of the most creative ideas. Do you want to protect the city from rain or snow? Just cover it with glass and it's done. The massive glasses placed on the columns in the city prevent whatever rain, snow, hail there is, and look, the city is spotless and bone dry. In a way, the designer thought that climate control could be done in the future. Of course, these predictions made 122 years ago are much more innocent compared to the terrifying plans and experiments being made today about the climate. Now let's move on to a drawing from around 1910 by the French in the 2000s. A drawing resembling modern helicopters, combining elements of a hot air balloon and a helicopter. In the picture, this person using a kind of glider is taking a path for himself while going in the air. Of course, think about how he adjusts his speed for this, how the cups don't fly with the force of the wind. Maybe it's a drawing trying to explain the ordering method of the future? Who knows? In the current picture, a technological barber is imagined. I guess the robotic arms in the barber shop are making the hair model that is coded on the computer with the instructions of the person here. Creative, but I don't think it would be very applicable, at least
in its current state.
This is probably what students would want the most. Normally, you can obtain information by studying it yourself, but here the elderly teacher is transferring information about the subject to students connected to electromagnetic information teachers with the help of a technological device. He loads the books containing the information they need to learn into a device similar to a book grinder, and the information here is directly transferred to the students' brains. Now, if we put aside the exaggerated part here, wouldn't it be wonderful if I imagined such a thing? Of course, who wouldn't want that? There is a scene similar to this in a movie shot many years later. Again, our character Neo, who is connected to a device, is loaded with a martial art technique called jujutsu through a few operations on the computer, and our character instantly turns into a karate fighter. This drawing was one of the most utopian for me. Let's move on to another interesting prediction. People walking on water. I guess they reduce their weight with special balloons attached to them, and they can stay on the water with wooden pieces attached to their feet. It's a prediction about people in the 2000s sea, so much so that it was thought that a journey could be made on water with a balloon attached to a horse and carriage. What I'm curious about is how they thought a horse could pull a big wagon. on the water. Their imaginations can sometimes be far from reality. It's one of the last drawings from the 1900s. They imagined a technology where we could see marine life with a special light during sea travel. Of course, these drawings from the 1900s show that they were overly optimistic. But many of them are far from reality and imagined as predictions for the future without considering other conditions and factors. By the 1920s, we come across the 1927 film Metropolis, which predicts the future but is not about this. In one scene of the movie, we see a train line moving above the city, one of the predictions that almost exactly resembles today. We usually see this system in highly developed, rare countries. Another prediction is similarly related to a highway system built from the ground up to ease traffic. Predicting traffic would become a problem 100 years ago, and showing in the film that they took a measure for it is quite clever. Mega skyscrapers have also been built in the city. Many of the predictions about the future in the film are consistent. Around the same years, when it came to clothing and fashion, people's ideas for the future were interesting. For example, a design was imagined where shoes would change according to the climate. There were also some funny ones, like this woman with a light bulb added to her hair, for example. Of course, outlandish ideas could emerge because they thought technology would develop rapidly. There were some creative predictions within kitchens. For example, cooking systems that prepare the meal you chose from a picture, or storage systems made for portable solutions in the kitchen. However, most of these ideas have not been implemented today except for a few. Again, around the same years, in 1923, science fiction author Hugo Gernsback, who as you can see in the picture was a big dreamer, showed a two-wheeled helicopter-like urban vehicle in this drawing for 1973. Many ideas about transportation were imagined, and the next one is one of them. A system was envisioned that was claimed to be advanced and reliable for those traveling on the highway. For example, this vehicle that people are in has an automatic pilot and can move on its own on the highway. Moreover, only with voice commands.
We're heading for Chicago. Please route us through.
But a little different from today's. The idea of a more analog autonomous journey following magnetic strips placed on the highway. A tower was even considered to direct these vehicles to their destination city.
You are now under automatic control.
The fact that a thought very similar to what today's Tesla vehicles do was imagined 100 years ago is truly tremendous. In this drawing, it was imagined that people would place orders using a picture phone in the 2000s. A technology where you can choose the clothing you want from the pictures projected on the phone.
I'll take it. Please send it out to me. Here is my credit card.
And remember the striped pillowcases.
We're doing something very similar with smartphones that are small enough to fit in our pockets. But their prediction was incredibly realistic. By the 1950s, our fascination with robots had also increased. In the 2000s, robots doing household chores were imagined. Robots that greet the person at the door and do the minimum tasks at home. Of course, today we have robots that do simpler tasks, but these are far behind what was imagined. Some work is being done on this, especially the robots made by Boston Dynamics are astonishing, but they have not yet been adapted to homes. More realistic predictions for the future began to be made in the 60s. This young man is receiving education from a large screen at home, similar to today's online education. There is also a teaching machine in the house that he can interact with. Doesn't it resemble today's computer so much? A computer system has also been developed that allows parents to send mail and monitor their expenses at the same time. All of these almost exactly resemble what we do today. Some of you may know the 1962 cartoon Jet Killer. The series depicts a future utopia with robots, aliens, holograms, and interesting inventions. Thanks for preparing breakfast, honey. Preparing breakfast? And with just one button, it must be quite exhausting. Despite 60 years passing since its production, we haven't even come close to these. But imagining is still quite fun. When it came to the 70s, people started to dream about going beyond the world and into space. In this video, prepared by National Aeronautics and Space Administration, it was thought that people would live in a colony in space in the 2000s. In the Back to the Future movies, a world with flying cars, skateboards, holograms, and many innovations was imagined where Martin went to the year 2015. Of course, dreaming is easy and free, but making accurate predictions is not that easy. Today is the year 2022. So, what would your prediction about the future be? Don't forget to write your realistic and creative predictions in the comments. By the way, which of the predictions made by people in the past did you like the most? If you want the second part of this video, don't forget to like the video. I'm NYGMA. See you again in the future.